Everything's about a surfing internet that was invented 9 years ago. Elon Musk will tell Fantástico about the invention of the internet on all computers in the world.
The battle for control of the internet is on, and it's no game. Under attack, Microsoft, the giant corporation whose computer operating systems dominate the entire market. Venture capitalist Eric Trudian is CEO of Zip2, a California company that provides online access to information about cities around the country. Everything from where to eat, how to get around.
You imagine the possibilities, but...
The company's chief engineer and founder is 27-year-old Elon Musk. And how old were you when you started this company, or what became this company?
23.
It's a classic Silicon Valley story. Before there was the vintage Jaguar, the six-figure salary, the cute dog, and a nice house to share with the city girlfriend, there was the $200 a month office with the leaky roof.
It's a massive place to live. And I lived in it too and showered at the YMCA.
Now Musk has his own computer command center, and his business is thriving. To his delight, Microsoft has tried and so far failed to get a hold in Zip2's market. You always keep an eye on them. And everyone in Silicon Valley is keeping an eye on the battleground a continent away at the federal courthouse in Washington. It's here where it will be decided whether Microsoft and its founder, Bill Gates,
I don't remember something.
are our generation's equivalent of John D. Rockefeller and his Standard Oil, a monopoly the government broke up in a landmark case that really started antitrust enforcement at the dawn of the century. Leading the charge this time is the Justice Department's chief trust buster, Joel Klein. He claims Microsoft has bullied and intimidated a wide array of high-tech firms.
We will show a significant effort to stifle competition, harm consumers, and prevent the market from having people compete on the merits.
Defending Microsoft, attorney Bill Newcomb.
Show that Microsoft is a vigorous but a very fair competitor, and that as a result of our competition and our innovation, customers have benefited by getting better technology quicker and at lower prices.
In an important example, Microsoft did streamline things for consumers by adding, for free, its browser, known as Internet Explorer, to its popular Windows operating system. The browser is basically a navigation system that helps you connect with the information you want on the Internet. But the government complains that by bundling or tying its browser to its other products, Microsoft denied consumers a choice and unfairly blocked another company, Netscape, from marketing its own browser.
Microsoft should not be allowed to own the browser market. If they do that, then they will own the gateway to the Internet for every consumer, and that is almost certainly likely to result in a less valuable experience for the consumer.
Not everyone agrees.
If you're not willing to engage in competition, why are you in Silicon Valley?
T.J. Rogers, founder and CEO of Cypress Semiconductors.
The man who started Netscape became multi-10 millionaires overnight, and now they're whining and crying because Microsoft had its voice and just went whack and said, here it is. A better software package, not just the browser, but everything you want. Guaranteed to work in one package, running on your computer, $99 ready to print.
Well, some competitors think Microsoft's tactics are unfair. Peter Doherty owns Digital Bitcasting, a small Massachusetts company that makes software that channels audio and video onto the computer screen. There are some people out there who paint Microsoft as sort of a benevolent dictator. Why do you think that is?
The man who runs the company sets the tone for the company, and I think that's true in most companies.
What do you think the tone is of that company?
I think it's an extremely aggressive, intelligent, but I think the reality is in reverse. That they're not a benevolent company.
Doherty has felt the brunt of Microsoft competition.
Microsoft comes along and they have the Windows Media Player, and it's what's called overwriting our technology, so you can no longer use our technology.
So Microsoft software, once it was loaded on, basically disabled your technology or overrode it.
Exactly.
Why would the consumer care?
An end user has paid for our software. They used to be using it. They should have the right to be able to use it. Some serious math involved in that.
In fact, Doherty has now channeled his business into areas that don't directly compete with Microsoft. And though he generally dislikes government intervention, he thinks it may be needed to control Microsoft.
They're the killer whale in our business. So I do think the government is going to have to be involved.
A successful attack on Microsoft by the government says improving your products, making things better, making them cheaper is against the law. And I think that's immoral and un-American.
Back in 1969, the Justice Department filed another big antitrust suit that rocked the computer industry. Then the target was IBM. The case dragged on for 13 years until the government finally dropped it. And there's one thing that Peter Doherty and T.J. Rogers do agree on, that even without government intervention, like IBM, Microsoft could still eventually fall of its own weight.
IBM was large. Some people thought they were arrogant, but what happened was, for example, IBM brought out the personal computer. And then other companies like Apple Computer, for example, said, we have a better idea, we'll make it more user-friendly. And now today, IBM, instead of owning the personal computer industry, is one of the players, not even the leading one or number one or number two. We certainly hope to increase the...
There are so many scenarios of how the Microsoft case could conclude that none of the experts will predict an outcome. And many in the scrappy computer industry that prides itself on rewarding innovation say they haven't chosen sides in the U.S. versus Microsoft battle. Derek Prudian.
It's a delicate ecosystem. The government could, with too heavy-handed an approach, create barriers or stifle that climate. Similarly, a large player like Microsoft, if it was too heavy-handed, could also stymie that environment.
And so, in the world of Bill Gates, Peter Doherty, T.J. Rogers, and young Elon Musk, there is a brooding anxiety over the landmark trial that will map out the rules of the road to the Internet.
Attraction that is street magic. The magician decided to make a big doll with the cards from the deck. This is what you will see now in these 15 years of Fantástico.
Ladies and gentlemen,
hoje é dia de mágica nas ruas da Times Square em Nova York.
Magic here, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to do a trick that's over 5,000 years old. And everybody is welcome to come and watch and participate.
O mágico manda o espectador escolher uma carta do baralho.
Ladies and gentlemen, this deck of cards looks like it's a regular, ordinary deck. It is, but it means a great deal to me, ladies and gentlemen.
Aparentemente, o mágico joga as cartas do baralho no chão da calçada. E veja só o que aconteceu. O mágico fez as cartas se transformar em um boleto. O boleto dá saudações à plateia. Atenção, não tente fazer isso em casa. Assim que o boneco dá a carta ao espectador, ele desapareceu suavemente. O espectador acha que a carta do corações foi escolhida. Que bela mágica com muita palmas da plateia.
So what's it feel like to be married at last? I don't know really. I've never been married before.
Linda and Paul McCartney's love affair began as the Beatles were splitting up.
By all accounts, their 30-year marriage was one of the happiest in show business. They met at a nightclub, and Paul said it was love at first sight.
She was a very spunky woman, so I was kind of attracted to that. I thought, oh my God, she's got it together, you know.
We've gone this far. We're good friends. I think friendship's important.
Linda and Paul McCartney traveled the world together, performing with their 4 children in tow. Friends say during their entire marriage, they spent just one night apart.
Maybe I'm amazed at the way you love me all the time.
Paul McCartney has said his most heartfelt ballads were inspired by his wife. She was a professional photographer and a keen vegetarian who successfully marketed a collection of best-selling cookbooks.
I think we should care more about each other. I think we should think about what we eat and how we live, and maybe I'm a dreamer.
In 1995, Linda was diagnosed with breast cancer, and though treatments appeared to be successful, the cancer eventually spread to her liver. Linda McCartney died while on vacation in Santa Barbara, California, her husband and 4 children with her. Jane Clayson, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Fantástico remembers 1985, the greatest American military service, American Navy and Air Force. Reporter Robert Riggs talks about America's greatest military service. This is the one you will remember in these 15 years of Fantástico.
The recruiting battle to keep the all-volunteer Army's ranks full may be in for an ambush. Two enemies threaten enlistments, the start of a demographic depression and the end of the economic recession. More potential recruits can now find work elsewhere due to the economic recovery. The number of delayed entry program recruits, those who sign up to report for active duty within 12 months, has declined. Expanding the role of women to offset the declining number of men has apparently been ruled out by the Pentagon.
All right,
The proportion of women in the military is rising slowly due to job restrictions. Reserves have traditionally received hand-me-down equipment. The 202 Squadron flies an updated model of the Vietnam vintage F-4, no match for regular Navy fighters. An ambitious upgrading is underway. The National Guard and Reserve Forces need an estimated $24 billion worth of new equipment. Congress has been warned that aging aircraft and ships could prevent the reserves from fully meeting their wartime missions. Robert Riggs, Channel 8 News, aboard the USS Eisenhower.
Porque essa gente famosa teve a sua carreira de cinema, teatro e televisão. O Fantástico localiza direto de Hollywood os atores e atrizes diferentes que vão falar ao Fantástico sobre a vida de artista. Daqui a pouco, não perca.